Timeshares can be viewed as a blessing and a burden when it comes to estate planning, and there are many points to consider. Cary Estate Planning has a team with expert experience, and founder and estate planning lawyer Paul Yokobitis is back to help us out. So good to see you.
Thanks for having me back, Amber.
I like that we're talking vacations, but just like the vacation, these timeshare properties come with some maybe little bylines that we need to know about.
That's right, yeah, and with some other things in estate planning, there are aspects of it that are really beneficial for the owner, the people who engage in this during their lifetime, but it may not be as easy as most people think if something happens to you and transitioning it over.
Because I think a lot of times when you have a timeshare, you think of it as a hotel room. So how does owning one of these actually affect someone's estate plan?
Yeah, the common conception around this type of interest is that it's like a membership, that you just continue to pay the assessment and you get points and that kind of stuff, and that it's just like any other membership, that it just, if something happens to you, then it just goes away. But unfortunately, timeshares are actually treated as a real estate interest in the resort that you bought into. And so generally, it'll be a fractional interest in a resort in like Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, or in Orlando, or something like that. But it's almost never in the state that you live in. And so it complicates the entire estate by adding real estate in another state to the equation.
Which is a lot of extra steps, especially for you and your team, because we don't know what to do. We don't have attorneys down there dealing with it. And we want the people who are actually dealing with our estate plan to be able to take care of it and make sure everyone's safe. I think the first step, what do you do if who you're leaving it to, your beneficiary, doesn't actually want this place?
Yeah, great question. Well, obviously first is to have that conversation, and it's a conversation that almost never happens. You know, kids will obviously be aware that their parents may have a timeshare interest. Maybe they participate in it too. They go on vacations with their parents. But it's almost never a conversation of, is this something that they want or not if something happens to the parents? But if they don't want it, then the best opportunity is to either get rid of it during the parent's lifetime or to transition it into an easier holding pattern, right? Like a trust or something like that, that just makes the transition easier after they're gone.
Which, of course, is something that you can help us with. So it sounds like it's better to do all of this sooner rather than later. What are some of the points that you should consider when you're thinking about purchasing one of these timeshares?
Yeah, the realities of this is it's treated like real estate just like your house would be, but it usually doesn't have the same value and marketability that a house would have. But the process to transfer it from owner to beneficiary is identical. And the issue is that instead of it being in the county, in the state that you live in, like your home would be, it's in a totally different state that we otherwise don't have any connection to. And so we're not as advantaged in a beneficiary to try and go get it and try to go deal with it. And sometimes it costs more to deal with it than it's worth.
Absolutely.
And so things that we can do is change the way we own things during life. And so if we're about to buy into or own or we already can manipulate the ownership of a timeshare, is to maybe add your kids as joint tenants with rights of survivorship. There generally isn't liability or tax considerations there because these properties don't really appreciate. The other would be to hold it in the name of a trust. That means that we don't have to make any court filings in the other state. The kids can just transition it, try to sell it, get rid of it as fast as they possibly can.
Sure. So there are options. That's good to know. We're not stuck. You know how to help us out of a situation like this. Let me ask you, if, say, we hadn't already bought one and we're considering doing so, is it better to talk to you first before actually signing anything?
It absolutely could be, and it's generally the case with most assets that we're about to acquire. Is it's better to have a plan in place first before we acquire. Obviously, contemplate all the ramifications, the pros and cons before we engage in that, and then obviously having the conversation with the timeshare company. What does all this look like? How is this handled? Is there a way that I can designate my kids to own it as well? Just to have more clarity and understanding before we engage in that.
Especially because a lot of times you're sold these under pretenses where you're getting free trips or extra drinks, and then you just sign the paper and have no idea the ramifications that are going to happen down the line.
That's right, and I think that's why these are so misunderstood, is because you're not going through the same process like you would buying a house. There's a lot of awareness and a lot of disclosures in home purchases that are just gone. They're never even contemplated when it comes to a timeshare. And so we generally don't understand the significance of it until it's too late.
This is great information. It's things I for sure have never thought about. You just think it's a trip to the beach and it's just a fun trip and it's not ever going to be an issue like that. And I got a free hotel room out of it.
It's just points. What could go wrong?
Exactly. But so many things. But luckily you and your team are there to keep us straight and make sure that everything turns out okay. How can we get a hold of you and maybe set up that consultation and get more information?
Yeah, absolutely. Our process always starts by visiting CaryEstatePlanning.com.
Fabulous. Well, always a pleasure having you here. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.